Am I the asshole for refusing to help my partner financially? I, 43F, have been with my partner, 50M, for 6 years now. We have been living together for 5 of them. We are not married and we do not plan to marry in the future. I have a son, 19M, that is currently a high school senior. My partner has a daughter, 21F, who is going to college. The background: you need to understand the issue. When I met my partner I was a widow of 3 years. I am lucky enough to have a very lucrative business and some family money. Also, my late husband left a substantial estate, including the house we live in. The house is a family home, so it passed to my son as the only heir. My partner also makes good money and the difference in our lifestyles was pretty much negligible. But while I and my late husband made sure to not spoil our son, he was responsible for keeping his room clean. Even though we have a housekeeper, he had chores during the weekends. We taught him how to cook. His allowance is reasonable. He has to save for expensive purchases like a car, a PS5, etc. My current partner and his ex-wife spoil their daughter rotten. Due to an incident when we first moved in together, she demanded my son's bedroom since it was the second biggest, got rejected since it was his home and she only spends the weekend, and after some family therapy we agreed that she will be treated like a guest by me. She will have to follow the house rules and that at the extent of our relationship. Now while she is spoiled, she is a good girl, academically excellent. Except for the aforementioned incident, very respectful and just a pleasant young woman. The problem is that I did not know the extent to which my partner spent money on her. He pays some money as rent that I put into my son's college fund and we split the common bills in half. Everything else is our own responsibility, so we don't know much about each other's finances. Now my son is planning to do a tour of East Asia during the summer and I was happy to give him the money to do so, as a gift for getting into a very prestigious college. When my stepdaughter heard about it, she asked her dad to pay for a tour of Europe since he didn't send her on one after she got into college. He agreed because he never says no, but he came to me asking me to lend him close to $30,000 because he can't afford the trip on his own. I am not even giving that much to my son and his plane tickets are more expensive. I refused. I said that since this wasn't an emergency he can save and send her on the trip after she graduates college. Now he is not talking to me, saying that I am choosing favorites. I have no relationship with his daughter, so I don't know how that even is applicable, and that I am putting money over his happiness and relationship with his daughter. So am I the asshole? I can easily afford to lend him the full amount, I just don't want to, because his reasons are not convincing enough. Not the asshole. WTF. My first European vacation was when I was 31 years old and cost a total of roughly $2,500 including airfare. Jesus Christ. Not the asshole. Congratulations to your son for doing well and getting into a great school. Traveling is such a great experience for the soul. However, your partner is super out of touch. Good luck. Not the asshole. $30,000 for a vacation? That's a year's rent at $2,500 per month. That's insane. If he's not talking to you, then count your blessings. In your split financial setup, you aren't playing favorites. You are giving your son a gift. He can give his daughter a similar gift if he chooses, but it'd be on him to pay for it. This makes my head hurt. Obviously things would be different if you had shared finances, but you don't. Hard. Not the asshole. Info generally, you pay for your son and he pays for his daughter? I'm inclined to. Not the asshole. You haven't combined your finances. It's your money, you get to do what you want. Not the asshole. What in the world? How? Why would a trip around Europe cost that much for a college-aged person? Your rail pass and stay in hostels. Also, your boyfriend should ask his ex-wife about helping to fund this extravagant trip that he clearly can't afford before asking you. Or he should just say no and get a spine. Am I the asshole for walking out of the restaurant over a joke between my fiancé and his friend? IF30 used to work as a sex worker in my early to mid-20s. Not so proud of it, but I had no choice. I had to get money to be able to keep my siblings and myself from homelessness. I met my fiancé Martin M32 over a year ago. He knows every single detail about my life and every day tells me he loves me no matter what. His family are literally saints, so I kind of hit the jackpot in the in-laws department. However, his friends, not so much. Some of them make comments about my past and throw in some words that I find rather offensive, but I thought to myself, Giro, you just being too sensitive. Just let it go. Last week we went out to the restaurant to celebrate Martin's birthday with his friends and family. One of his closest friends, Antonio, has a habit of making nasty jokes and laughing publicly. Martin was talking to his friends while I was talking to my mother-in-law talking. Antonio looked around and praised the restaurant and the atmosphere for the party. Martin nodded after Antonio told him he's lucky he got all that for his birthday, then complained about not having family to celebrate his upcoming birthday. He then told Martin, "Perhaps I can borrow my name for some BJ on my upcoming birthday." I was appalled. But when I turned to see how Martin Whoopity react, Martin just laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, well, how much are you willing to pay?" I froze. Now I might have overreacted, but I had a terrible look on my face as I looked at Martin. Then I got up, gathered my stuff including the gift I got him, then started making my way out. My in-laws noticed and I could hear Martin yelling after me. He followed me outside begging me to wait, but I kept walking. He said it was just a joke between him and his buddy and I was overreacting for no reason at all. I started arguing with him about how he was not only okay with his buddy humiliating me but playing along in his god-awful joke. He insisted I overreacted and was being oversensitive. I got into a taxi and went home. After he came back he started complaining about how I embarrassed him and ruined the celebration by walking out. I reminded him of what he did and he said it was just a joke. And the only one who has an issue with my past is me, and I should seek therapy for being too sensitive all the damn time. Not the asshole. Dump him. Talking about pimping you out isn't a joke, it's a fundamental lack of respect for you. You're not being sensitive and you could be proud of your past as a sex worker and it still wouldn't make what he and his friends are doing, saying okay. This FYI is exactly why they always have something to say, because Martin not only allows it or participates. Time to pack your things and go op. Martin is never going to respect you and you absolutely deserve a partner who respects you. NTA. Hun. You have only known him a couple of years and the honeymoon is over. This is him showing you how he actually thinks. To your face he says he's fine with your past. To his friends, he's willing to joke about taking money in exchange for you. Basically he's willing to joke about pimping you out. Run. ETA, don't be ashamed of your past. You are a strong, capable woman who doesn't take any bullshit and your past made you that woman. Honestly, sex work is stigmatized and it shouldn't be. You sold your labor just like anyone does. Be proud of who you are. WTF. That would be misogynistic and awful no matter the context, and you feeling sensitive about your past makes it worse. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. You opened yourself up to Martin with trust about a very sensitive subject and in that moment he completely disregarded your feelings and spat on it. Someone who says he loves you, no matter what, and then jokes like that is more likely telling himself as a reminder for himself. You just don't make snide jokes like that unless you think it in the first place. You should have asked him to explain the joke. Cause when he can't explain it without sounding like an absolute sexist pig, maybe it will finally sink in. You should have returned that ring before getting in the cab. No one gets to make fun of anyone for doing whatever they need to do to provide a roof over their heads. They all sound like the biggest struggle of their lives was a hangnail and God forbid they find themselves in your situation. He's making fun of what you did to survive. This wasn't a career choice for you, and if he can't acknowledge that he doesn't deserve you. Also you should have hit back, that you were taught to never stick small objects in your mouth before you walked out. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. OMG, I would not have been so calm when I got up and left. Question: did you tell Antonio, and the rest of Martin's friends, about your past, or did Martin tell them? Girl, you are not being too sensitive. People have no right to make comments, never mind jokes, about you and your past. Martin should have put a stop to that immediately the first time it ever happened. Honestly, it sounds to me like he's proud of your past and is using that to gain extra points with his friends. If his friends are that comfortable making jokes in mixed company and in front of his parents about renting you for BJs, Lord knows what they say privately when you're not around. This would be a deal breaker for me, and I would break up with him. Am I the asshole for threatening to call the cops if my son's stepdad drives his car? I share custody of my son Andy, M16, with his mother Eliza. Eliza is married to Scott, who had 3 kids and they have had 3 more together, so a total of 6 kids, 7 the weeks Andy is with them. Eliza and I, and Scott, who won't stay out of it, have constant conflict over Andy. I have a good job with a high salary at my family's company. Eliza and Scott do not make a lot of money. To be honest, I have no idea how they make it on what they earn with such a large family. But as long as Andy is taken care of, I know it's not my business. We ended up in court over whether Andy was to attend private school and I won. But in addition to paying for the school, I also had to be the one to provide transportation to and from school. So I was relieved when Andy became old enough to drive and helped him get his license as soon as he could. I bought him a car, a 2021 Mazda SUV. I am aware that a 16-year-old does not need a new car, but it had one of the highest safety ratings around and, quite frankly, I can afford it. Eliza and Scott told me I was being a pretentious prick. I paid for the car and it is in my name until Andy turns 18. I also pay for the upkeep of the car and insurance. Andy pays for gas. Neither Eliza nor Scott pays a dime toward the car. Last week Andy was on spring break, so he wasn't in school. He called me to ask if I could bring over some model paints he had left at my house. I asked him why he didn't drive over and get them and learned that he was being punished and not allowed to drive. I drove over to drop off the supplies, and when I get there his car wasn't in its usual spot. I asked Andy where his car was and was told that Scott had driven it to work. I told Andy that he wasn't allowed to have anyone else drive the car, but Andy said that Scott didn't ask, he just took the keys. I was not a happy camper. When I bought the car for Andy, I had the conversation with Scott, Eliza that no one besides Andy was to drive the car. Eliza told me that their car wasn't working and I replied that they are not to drive Andy's car. Eliza gave me her usual rolled eyes. The next day I purposefully drove by and saw the car was not in the driveway. I called Andy and asked him if Scott had taken the car again and he said yes. I called Eliza and told her that she 1 hour to get Andy's car back in the driveway or I was calling the police and reporting it stolen. She yelled at me, but when she realized I wasn't backing down, called Scott to bring the car back. He did, making it 10 minutes before I would have called the police, and he yelled at me about making him miss work and therefore lose pay. I told him I didn't care, and if I found out he had done it again I wouldn't bother giving him a warning, I would just call the cops. Both Eliza and Scott are furious with me and even Andy thinks I went too far. So I am here to get an unbiased opinion. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. I bet he wasn't allowed to drive just so Scott could drive it to work. Not the asshole. It's a huge liability for you if Scott has an accident in that car. But aside from that, they have no business touching a car they've contributed nothing to. They sound super entitled and awful. I would be concerned that they were drumming up punishments for Andy in order to ground him from his car so they could use it. You should talk to your son about this. Not the asshole, but I am curious as to why your son was punished and told that he couldn't drive the car. I'm wondering if they did as purposely so that Scott could drive the car. Did your son say what happened? Also, how long is the punishment? Is he gonna be able to drive the car to school when school resumes? If not, are they going to drive him? Not the asshole in the slightest. Screw Scott, it's not his car to use as he pleases. Edited to add. I probably wouldn't have called you TAH even if you had called the cops when he took it the first day. I don't get the entitlement to property that wasn't his. If he needed a ride to work, he could have asked your son to take him and pick him up. What if he wrecked the car? Damn sure no, he wouldn't have paid to fix it. Not the asshole. Gee. What a coincidence your boy gets his privileges revoked during spring break when he doesn't need it. Well, I guess Scott has no choice but to drive it. Tell Andy to keep you informed of when his driving privileges are revoked. My guess is there will be no revoking during school days he stays with them, if he does stay during, as that would mean they would be responsible for transport. If he gets revoked again, have the car towed to your home until he gets privileges again. Not the asshole. You handled it perfectly. Can they revoke driving privileges when he's with them? Absolutely. That does not mean anyone else gets to drive the car, it's yours and they can get over it. Your ex and her husband are not entitled to use the car. Am I the asshole for throwing a tantrum after my brother came out at my wedding? I, 27F, am engaged to Polly, F. The fact that I am homosexual affected my relationship with my parents, and it took more than a decade for them to accept it. I came out at age 12, and since then my brother, Ollie, 23M, has become my parents' golden child. It made my relationship with Ollie a little salty. My wedding party was this weekend. My parents and Ollie went. It was a very welcoming environment, with a lot of LGBT people. The night was wonderful, the way I always dreamed of, warm and loving. I noticed a commotion at my parents' table and I went to check it out. Ollie took advantage of the moment to come out. Nothing new. I had doubted his sexuality since he was a child, but it wasn't up to me to expose it. My dad got mad when I wasn't surprised and accused me of hiding that kind of thing. In addition to making comments about being disgusted with the fact that his children are two faggots. Almost everyone at the party was listening. I pissed off all three of them. I told my parents, "You can't for a single night swallow your fucking prejudice." And for Ollie. Of all times, you knowing that it took them both a decade to accept me back, can't you choose any other day? I don't care about you being gay, you have to be whoever you want to be, but why today? My fiancé interceded and after my tantrum my parents left and so did Ollie. I admit it wasn't my best reaction, but I just wish one day it wasn't back to my brother or my parents weren't prejudiced. It felt like the hell of my adolescence had all come back and again I'm embarrassed by my parents and upstaged by my brother. My parents aren't talking to me and I honestly don't feel like it. But I know my brother is saying that I was homophobic and destroyed his moment of coming out. Am I the asshole? This is giving me, I'm going to propose at my sibling, friend's wedding, vibes. Ollie can be who he wants but this was not the time or place to come out, it just screams, drama. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Everyone here is an asshole except you. Your brother should not have co-opted your day. I hate to say it, but your parents really sounds awful. I think you should just move on. Enjoy your happiness with your finance, forget about your parents, and ask for an apology from your brother. Not the asshole. Your parents are bigots, and Ollie picked a really bad time to come out. It wasn't Ollie's day. It was your day, and he tried to make it about him for some reason. Your brother is calling you, an openly lesbian woman who is married to another lesbian woman, homophobic? I'm not even sure how to answer because I am so taken back by your brother's pure stupidity. Not the asshole. Ollie had no business coming out at your wedding. He also would have had no business announcing his acceptance into a prestigious university, his own betrothal or his winning of the lottery. It's not what he announced, it's that he made any significant disclosure. Every civilized person knows that you don't use someone else's wedding to break big news unless the wedding couple know and approve of your intention to do so. The only way Ollie would not be in the wrong is if it was something he blurted out because your parents were spouting homophobic nonsense and he just snapped. But he'd still have to be deeply sorry about creating drama at your wedding and he's not sorry. Congratulations on your marriage. I wish you long years, great joy and small troubles. Not the asshole. I'm dying at him calling his gay sister homophobic because she wasn't happy he came out at her gay wedding.